Hey, good morning. Good morning. Hey, Danny. Good to see you. Good to see you guys. Oh, man. All right, it's going to be a little painful for you today. It's painful for me, too, to talk, so I'm going to try to get this out. But I woke up with a little crud in my voice, so I'll stay back here. I won't spit on you today. If you guys were here last week, I'll stay way back here. Welcome if you're online. You guys are safe, so I'm glad that you're here with us today. I'm glad you made a decision to come today. We make decisions all the time, don't we? I mean, it's amazing when you think about the number of decisions that we make in a daytime. We make decisions all the time, but some decisions are like you just can't avoid. Like you have to have an answer for something. Like if you're standing there and you're out to eat and a server comes up to you and says, would you like fries with that or would you like a salad? You have to decide. You have to decide. Now, just out of curiosity, how many of you would choose fries instead of the salad? My people. You guys are going to heaven, Probably a little sooner than the other group, but you're going, But either way, you have to decide, right? You can't just sit there staring at the menu. Some decisions are funny and some decisions are small, This is a controversial one for some people in our world, but you get this question all the time, paper or plastic, right? Paper or plastic. Here's another controversial one, and I think it speaks a lot to you. How many, do you put pineapple on pizza or not? How many people put pineapple?
Only with ham.
Wow, you guys are weird. That's just so weird. Do I really need this dessert? I mean, it comes with the meal, so I've already paid for it. So, I don't want to waste money. But then we're paying for this diet over here, so I don't know, Some are funny. And some decisions are actually painfully, you have to kind of really gut this thing out. If I take this job, it's going to mean that I'm uprooting my family. I mean, that's a decision that a lot of you have had to made at some point in your life, I love Venice. I love you guys. And I'll tell you one of the reasons I love you guys. The vast majority of you are not from here. We've already declared that. The vast majority of you are not from here. You're from up in, Michigan or whatever. And so the vast majority of you are from up north. But you made a big decision. You made a huge decision, a gut decision that said, we want to move to Florida. And I mean, I thought that's a huge thing. I want to be around people in my life who are risk takers. I feel like Michelle and I have been that way too. We packed up everything, 27 years ago, and we moved our little kids and we sold everything we had and started a church in Orlando. I love you guys because you're big decision makers. You are. I mean, I love that. Some decisions are like, do I say yes to this surgery or do I try another treatment? Do I say yes to this chemo or see what happens if we play this thing out? Those are big decisions, huge decisions. Do I forgive this person or do I carry this grudge? Do I stay in this relationship or do I walk away? Do I obey God's calling even if it costs me something? Well, that's where we're at today. In John chapter 18, it's decision time. It is decision time. Jesus has been teaching. He's been healing. He's been raising the dead. And now the cross is very near in our journey with Jesus. And I have three characters. I just said just three characters today that are our main characters that we want to talk about. Judas. We're going to talk about Judas a little bit. We'll talk about Peter for a little bit. And we're going to talk about Pilate. And each of them are forced to deal with this same question that you and I have to deal with. What will I do with Jesus? That's the question that you have to deal with. That's the question I have to deal with. What will I do with Jesus? Little spoiler alert before we get to the end of the message. They all blew it. They all blew it. But this isn't, one thing I want you to see is this isn't just their story. It's ours too. Because every one of us has to answer this unavoidable question, what will I do with Jesus? All right, here's the stage. Let me set the background for you a little bit. We'll start with John chapter 18, verse 1. Jesus crossed the Kidron Valley with his disciples, and he entered a grove of olive trees. That may seem not important, but that is huge. And John makes a point to mention the Kidron Valley. It's not an accidental detail. You see, the Kidron Valley runs between the Temple Mount, where the upper room was, where the temple was. We talk about the upper room. The disciples are in the upper room. The Kidron Valley runs from that area, where the temple, upper room, all that is, runs down the Kidron Valley and then back up into the Mount of Olives, which is also where the Garden of Gethsemane is. Here's a picture of it. I was there not too long ago, right before the war broke out. And if you look, this is the valley down here. This is looking from the viewpoint. It's a little bit further to the right than the Garden of Gethsemane, but I like this picture because it kind of showed it well. But right where I would be standing, according to that picture, it would be very close to the Garden of Gethsemane, the Mount of Olives. Then you've got this big valley that goes down, and you see the wall that's around Jerusalem. And then if you look in the middle, you'll see the gate, the big archway gate. That is the eastern gate. A lot of scholars will say that that is the location where Jesus is going to come back when Jesus returns. And if you'll notice, I think it was during the Ottoman Empire. I just throwing this one out here for your extra credit. During the Ottoman Empire, they actually walled that gate in so that Jesus would not be able to come through and enter. Isn't that funny? It's crazy because nothing's going to stop Jesus from coming in. But I want you to picture this scene, this Kidron Valley. Now, during Passover week, historians will tell us that hundreds of thousands of lambs were actually sacrificed in Jerusalem. Some estimates are as many as 250,000 lambs were sacrificed in a single Passover week. And what happened was there were these from the temple courts, there would be this drainage system that would drain the blood of all of those lambs and sacrifices and run them into channels into this Kidron Valley. It emptied right into the Kidron Valley. Now, let's pause here for just a second with that. When I'm talking to new people in Christianity or new people with the Bible or people that just don't understand, they'll look at this and they'll see all the sacrifices in the Old Testament and they'll think, man, there's so much blood. Right? There's so much sacrifice like that of animals. And is this some kind of cult or something? They're thinking that. Maybe if they don't say it in their mind, just thinking that's just so weird. So it seems so barbaric. But here's what we don't realize. Most of us today eat meat without ever thinking about where it comes from. We just don't. We walk into a grocery store, we grab a package of chicken or a hamburger. We don't buy steak anymore because you can't afford it. But we don't think about the process. Our meat comes wrapped in plastic and stacked in little neat rows, and it's detached from the life that it once was. We just don't even think about it, you know? And I don't know about you. Have you ever been to a meat processing plant? Yeah, you probably don't want to go. In my day, we called it a slaughterhouse. We're going to the slaughterhouse. You know, we would take our cattle, we would take our beef, and we would take it to the meat processing plant, the slaughterhouse. And let me tell you, I've been there, and it is efficient. It is industrial. It's all about profit. There is nothing sacred about it. Nothing sacred. But in the Jewish customs, in the Jewish sacrificial system, it's very different. Every sacrifice was actually intentional. Every animal that was sacrificed, it was a life for a life. That lamb, that animal was honored and it was revered for the life that it gave up in order to sustain theirs. It was sacred. It was worship. It was a reminder that forgiveness costs blood and that life is never cheap. It's like the movies that you would see maybe with the Native Americans who kill an animal and then they go over and they pray this blessing over this animal. Thank you for this. You know, similar to that kind of feeling. And there wasn't any waste to it. The lambs were roasted and eaten as part of the Passover meal for people. And so the people celebrated God's deliverance while literally being sustained by the very sacrifice. And so, yes, it was bloody. So if you're new to the Bible and you see this, you go, what was all that sacrifice about? Yeah, it was bloody, but it was holy. And even while not all the Jews realized it at the time, this is actually the picture of the gospel message and the fulfillment of prophecy that was about to come true in the life and the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. And I just want you to picture this while this picture is up there. as Jesus is leading his disciples from the upper room towards Gethsemane, he has to step across running streams of blood from other lambs. And so you have the Lamb of God on his way to the cross, so to speak, literally walking over the blood of lambs. And every step of the way was a picture of who he is and what he came to do. Now, when he crosses that valley and he gets over into the Garden of Gethsemane, who shows up but our first character, Judas. In John chapter 18, verse 2, it says, Judas, the betrayer, knew this place because Jesus had often gone there with his disciples. The leading priests and Pharisees had given Judas a contingent of Roman soldiers and temple guards to accompany him. Now, with blazing torches and lanterns and weapons, they arrived at the olive grove. So our first character is Judas, the sellout. Judas, the sellout. And so Judas walks into the garden carrying a lantern to arrest the light of the world. When I read that, I just thought, that is so fantastic to think about this. Here's Judas carrying a lantern to arrest the light of the world. That's like carrying a nightlight to see the sun, and what does he trade for? What does he trade the life of Jesus for? Betraying his friend. He trades it for 30 pieces of silver. We all know that. Even if you're not new to the Bible, you kind of know 30 pieces of silver. 30 pieces of silver is about 4 months' wages, best I could determine. So if you think about that, Judas sold out Jesus for pocket change. In comparison, it's pocket change. Think about it. Against the backdrop of eternity, Judas traded something that was of infinite value, to something that was just chump change in comparison to the background of all of eternity in Jesus' life and sacrifice for us. When I buy something, I really work hard at getting the best product that I can for the price and the quality. I look at everything, and just bear with me on this. I look at everything like it's a car, Like, okay, is this thing that I'm about to buy, is this a Lamborghini? Because I don't really need anything that extravagant, or, is this a Lamborghini? Or is this a Toyota Camry? It's reliable, it's dependable, it'll get you there beautifully, Or is it and I apologize, but is it a Ford Fiesta? Like, I just kind of look at everything like that. Our tech guys will know. Our tech guys go, I go all the time, they go, we need to have this. I go, okay, well, is it a Lamborghini? Or is it a Toyota Camry? Or is it a Ford Fiesta? And again, if you drive a Ford Fiesta, I'm sorry. But you probably get it. You probably get it. And so I did this the other day. I went to the store. My coffee maker had died on me. And so I use this principle for everything. It drives Michelle nuts, but I had 3 coffee makers there. I go, okay, well, this coffee maker, I think this is the Lamborghini. This coffee maker is the Toyota Camry. This one here looks like a Ford Fiesta. I don't even know if it's going to get me there. But this one, I'm not going to get this one because I don't need a Wi-Fi enabled coffee maker with a voice activated thing that tracks my sleep schedule. I just don't need it, And so anyway, but I will look at this, like even with our new worship facility. I do this all the time with our new Marilyn will tell you this. Is this a Lamborghini? A little too extravagant. We don't need that. We don't need to spend the money on it. Oh, is this a Camry? We'll get there. This is a great commercial for Toyota. Or is this a Camry? It's going to get us there beautifully. Or is this a Fiesta? The party's going to be over pretty soon with that thing. But here's the thing. The reason I mention that is in life, we all make trades, right? We're all trading something. We assign value to things. And for Judas made the worst trade in the history of civilization. He gave up infinite value for chump change. He traded the Son of God for coins that couldn't save him. He traded for coins that couldn't satisfy him, that could not redeem him. Judas kissed the door of heaven, if you think about it. He walked with Jesus, talked with Jesus. He kissed the door of heaven, and he still chose hell. But here's the hard truth. This is the hard truth. And Judas isn't just some outlier. Like, I always say, how could Judas do something like that, How could he walk with Jesus and see the things that he saw, and he talked to the people, saw things how could he do something like that? But if you think about it, can't we sometimes be that way? Like, we can trade things of infinite value in Jesus for something less. And that's where I have to do some personal inventory and some personal evaluation in my own life and say, what are the things that I've traded for infinite value in Jesus? So here's some. See if these relate to you anyway, because if you're kind of like me and you think, I can't believe he did that, Judas would never do something like that. But maybe we do. What about choosing comfort over commitment? Sometimes our price is as small as the pillow on Sunday morning, right? Not to make you guys feel guilty. Well, not to make you guys feel guilty. The people watching online maybe, but not you guys. Right? Or the people watching later on. The beach feels better than the Bible, right? Convenience wins over commitment. Or what about career over conviction? Maybe you got a promotion at work, but to get it, you had to cut some corners. It really affected your integrity and what you kind of thought about who you were as a person and your honor and your integrity. Or maybe you had to be silent about your faith. And what's your price? Is it a title or is it a paycheck? What is it, These are all things I think all of us have to deal with at some point, or a lot of these you have to deal with at some point. Or relationships over righteousness. This is a big one. I tell this to our students all the time, but it's not just to our students, it's for every single one of us. You show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Friends are like elevators. They take you up, they take you down. And so if you're linked up with somebody in a relationship that's drawing you, drifting you away from God, you have to kind of weigh this thing out. Is this worth it? Is my fear of being alone worth this pulling me away in the greatest relationship of infinite value in my relationship with God? You have to ask that question, Or maybe it's reputation over reality. We live in a excuse me. We live in a social media world where image is everything, right? Image is everything. Maybe your price is a few more likes. Or you'll edit the picture or exaggerate the story, and I'm not one to not exaggerate. In other words, I exaggerate. Do you pretend to be somebody that you're not? Because, approval feels more valuable sometimes than authenticity. Here's one for you too. How about our pleasure over purpose? Maybe it's not money, but maybe it's that dopamine hit on that first drink on an empty stomach. Or maybe it's just one more scroll or one more swipe. And those are temporary highs that rob us of this infinite value that we have in Jesus. Or maybe it's security over surrender. Maybe your price is control, You'll follow Jesus as long as he doesn't mess with your calendar or your plans or your bank account, But the moment he asks for full surrender, it's like, I don't know, that's kind of expensive. All right, here's a reflection point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take each one of these characters, and I want us to have a reflection point at the end. And I want us to sit on this and marinate in this and just soak in this for a second. Here's the question. What's your price? What's your price? Don't be pushing anything off on Judas. What's your price? What's the thing that's tempting you to trade Jesus, something of infinite value, for something of lesser value? Something that's temporary, that's not eternal. What is it? Think about that. Leave that up there just for a second. Second character. Meanwhile, as Simon Peter was standing by the fire warming himself, they asked him again. This is the second time. He says, you're not one of those disciples, are you? He denied it, saying, no, not me. I don't know. I don't even know what you're talking about. Interesting. So character number 2 is Peter. Will we deny him? Will we deny him? And it's interesting that it's Peter too, because Peter is seen constantly as the bold one, the outspoken one. You know, he's the one that chopped off the ear of the guard trying to protect Jesus, right? Remember a few weeks ago when I said Thomas, the courageous one, instead of just Thomas the doubter, I said Thomas should be called the courageous one. Or he goes, all right, well, let's go too and just go die with Jesus. Well, Peter said it as well. At the Last Supper, he tells Jesus, he says, even if I have to die with you, Jesus, even if I have to die with you, I will never deny you. Yeah. But now, around a charcoal fire, under pressure, he folds. And he goes from, I'm going to die with you to, I don't know who you're talking about. I don't even know that guy. Like, I don't know him. And if I think about this, if I'm just real honest about this in my life, it doesn't take a lot for me to be able to identify with Peter in this moment. Because how many times have I been around that same fire at night, camping with some buddies, and the conversation takes off somewhere, and I'm just like sitting there silent. I'm not saying anything. I'm not changing the situation. I'm just letting the conversation go in places it shouldn't go. How many times have I done that? I have to look at that, and I feel guilty for those sometimes, and those are great reminders for me to not be that way. But I think that was Peter, and I wonder what was going on in his mind. I wonder if he's sitting there going, I can't believe I just denied Jesus. I can't believe I just denied. He said I was going to deny him. I told him I wouldn't. And all this is going on in his brain right now. He said, I can't believe I did that. What an idiot. You know? You've done that? Have you been there? Here's the thing. There's only 2 kinds of people in the world. There really is. According to the movie What About Bob, if you guys have ever seen that. He goes, there's only 2 kinds of people in the world. Those who love Neil Diamond and those who don't, right? But really, there are only 2 kinds of people in the world. You're either a thermometer or you're a thermostat. That's it. You're either a thermometer and you just register the temperature of the room. I'm just registering the temperature of the room. I'm not doing anything to change it. I'm just going with the flow. I'm just registering it. Or you're a thermostat. You go in, you change the temperature of the room. You change the atmosphere. You change everything around you. And so that's the difference. Listen, a thermometer just registers, a thermostat sets the temperature. It changes the atmosphere. And when Peter stood by that fire, he was just being a thermometer. I'm just registering the conversations. I'm just reflecting, and I'm reflecting fear, and I'm reflecting doubt around me. I was just thinking, how about us? And when you are with a few people and gossip starts flying around you about somebody else, are you a thermometer? Just nodding along. Or are you a thermostat? Are you a thermostat where you say, maybe you say things like, hey guys, I don't know. It feels kind of weird to me. Maybe we shouldn't be talking about them like this. I think it'd be better if we talked about how we can help them or how we can love them better. You know what that is? That's a thermostat. That's changing the temperature of the room. And Jesus calls us to be thermostats, people who change the atmosphere, not just reflect it. I've been in countless meetings where all of a sudden, you know how negativity breeds negativity? It just does. You got one person that starts being negative and then another thing negative, and all of a sudden you got this negativity going on in the room. People are tearing down ideas. They're doubting everything. They're questioning everything. And then I've seen it happen where one person has the courage to stand up, and they're a thermostat, and they change the temperature of the room just by some positive thing that they're going to say in that room. That's what Peter should have done. That's what Peter should have done. That's what disciples are called to do. That's what we're called to do. Not thermometers, but thermostats. But Peter's fear, that was the situation. And I've been there. I've been in a group of people. And when you feel outnumbered, like as a pastor, and I feel outnumbered with these group of people over here that don't believe the same way that I believe, you just sometimes feel like you're just kind of worried about, I don't know, I don't even know what I'd say. And so then you still start feeling guilty about that. And that's what happened with Peter. His fear spoke louder than his faith. All right, so reflection question number 2. When the pressure is on, are you going to be a thermostat? Are you going to change the atmosphere? Or are you going to be a thermometer like Peter, and like I have been from time to time, who just reflects it? Which one? I hope we're all thermostats, right? Yeah. All right, third character. Ready? Pilate said, talking to Jesus, he says, so you're a king? And Jesus responds and says, you say I'm a king. Actually, I was born and came into the world to testify to truth. All who love the truth recognize that what I say is true. What is truth? Pilate asked. And you see what we see with Pilate in his life, and I encourage you to go read the entire chapter 18, is that Pilate just dismisses Jesus. He just shrugs him off. He doesn't want to deal with it. You see, Pilate is a politician, and he's caught in the middle. He knows that Jesus is innocent. He even says, I find no fault in him. I don't know what you guys are doing. I don't find any fault in him. But the pressure of the crowd is so great and so strong that he just kind of dismisses it. And Pilate's indecision doesn't end here. In the very next chapter, he gives the people a choice. It was customary that a prisoner could be released. And so he says, all right, I don't find any fault in this man. I can release Jesus. Or I can release Barabbas, this known criminal. And so we look at that and we sometimes go, wow, I can't believe they would release Barabbas. But even the Barabbas piece and the Jesus piece in this is the gospel message. Even that alone is the gospel message of releasing Barabbas. Because you and I, we're Barabbas. We are Barabbas. You may not realize that, but you're Barabbas. The name Barabbas actually means the guilty son of the Father. And so you have the guilty son of the Father being forgiven and being released, and the innocent son of the Father pays the price in sacrifice. It's the story of the gospel. You and I, it's our story as Barabbas. So it's absolutely amazing. We're going to talk about that more next week. But Pilate thought he was choosing between two men. What he was really revealing was God's purpose. Jesus standing in your place and my place. I'm on my second doctor in 5 years in Venice, just general practitioner, just trying to find a general practitioner. Second doctor in 5 years. I came home. This is a true story. Just the other day, I came home and I told Michelle, I said, I'm going to need a new doctor. And she said, you just came from your new doctor. I said, I know, but he's telling me the same thing the other one said. And I don't like it. I want to find one that tells me what I want to hear, you know? And that's Pilate right there. That's Pilate. He didn't reject the truth outright. He didn't reject the truth. He just didn't want to deal with it. So I'm not rejecting what these doctors are saying. I just don't want to deal with it, you know? So he shrugs it off. He shrugs it off. And I think people still do that today. We don't always reject Jesus, but we can dismiss him. We can scroll past him like another post in the feed. We can file Jesus under inconvenient truth for us. So Pilate asked, what is truth? While he was staring truth in the face. Third reflection question for us today is, what are you going to do when you know the truth about Jesus? What are you going to do with it? You got to make a decision. You can't stand there and look at the menu forever. You got to choose. Do I want fries with this, or do I want a salad? You got to choose one way or another. Are you going to ignore it, or are you going to act on that truth? And that question comes down to us. There's the lineup for us. Judas, Peter, and Pilate. 3 men, 3 choices, 3 failures. And every one of us in this room and every one of us watching online are faced with the same question: what will I do with Jesus? And you can't stay neutral. You just can't. You can't stay neutral. Every day in the choices we make, we decide, are we going to betray him? Are we going to deny him? Are we going to dismiss him? Or are we going to surrender to him? Now, the good news is, the great news is that even when we blow it like Peter, Jesus circles back around with grace and forgiveness. Because what we're going to see in just 3 weeks, can you believe we only have 3 weeks left of this series? I hope you guys, I'm sad actually, because I have loved this series. I have grown more as a pastor and as a follower of Jesus through this book of John. I've preached through it before, but there's new things popping out on the page every day. We're in 18. Thank you for sticking with us. 18 weeks. They say not to do series that last more than 4 or 6 weeks in a church. We've done one that's going to last 21 weeks, and you guys who have endured it, thank you. I mean, it's powerful. But in just 3 weeks, on the last chapter of John, we're going to see a different scene. We're going to see the same campfire. We're going to see Jesus and Peter. Jesus is cooking some fish around a campfire, and Peter's there, and he restores Peter in John chapter 21. And he tells us that failure is not the end when grace is still alive. Failure is not the end when grace is still alive. The question isn't just, what is Judas going to do? What's Pilate going to do? The question is, what will I do with Jesus? Will you surrender your life to him? And what does that even look like? What does surrender look like? Well, it doesn't always look like moving to another country. It doesn't always look like, man, Zach, you have just really inspired us with going to Brazil for these months. But it doesn't always look like that. It doesn't have to look like that. It doesn't have to be quitting your job and going as a missionary. Most of the time, surrender looks a lot more ordinary, actually, but no less important and no less holy. Sometimes it looks like opening up your Bible in the morning and reading and getting into God's Word instead of doom scrolling on Google News. It looks like forgiving the person that you've been holding a grudge against for years and years and years. It looks like telling Jesus, even though I don't understand, even I'm not even sure what's going on, I'm going to trust you with my plans. I'm going to trust you with my money. I'm going to trust you with my family, whatever it is. And for some of you, surrender looks like saying for the very first time, Jesus, I want to give you my life. Surrender it's less about one dramatic moment and more about the daily choice to say, not my will, but yours be done. But I will tell you that making that decision for Christ is one of the most important decisions that you can make in your entire life. Last week, after services, we went to the ocean. We went over to the Gulf, and we had 21 baptisms. Here's some pictures of those folks. And it was awesome because we just started out. There was just a couple people that said, hey, I want to get baptized. And we want to get baptized in the ocean. I said, okay. Why don't we do it after church? She goes, okay. And then I said, kind of let everybody know. And there were so many people that wanted to decide. Maybe you wanted to give your life to Jesus. Let me tell you, every day is baptism day, just so you know. We do kind of one, but now we're going to do 2, I think, beach baptism days. We usually do one in the spring. We'll do one in the fall now. But here's the thing. It gets too cold or a hurricane's coming, we'll go to a swimming pool. We'll go wherever. Every day's bath day. Every day's bath day. Every day's baptism day. And so if you're at that point, maybe you've been coming for a while and you're kind of new in the faith. If you're at that point and you want to surrender your life to Jesus, I'd love to pray. I'd love to just pray this prayer with you and just stay right where you are. And if these words ring true in your mind, will you pray this in your mind right now? Will you pray this to the Lord right now? For those of you surrendering for the first time, just would you pray, Jesus, I believe you're the Son of God. And I believe you died for my sins. I believe you rose again to give me life. And today I turn my old life over to you. I ask you to forgive me. I'm going to give you my heart. I give you my future. I give you my everything. I am yours. Maybe you're like me at different times in my life where I've drifted from God. Drift happens, right? It just happens. It's so easy. And it happens without us knowing it. Something happens over here. We don't go to church for a couple weeks. And then instead of getting up in our devotionals, something else happened. Before you long, you just realize that, oh my goodness, I have drifted away from God. And I'm telling you, when you find yourself in a drift, in a spiritual drift, when you come back, it just renews you with this hope and this joy. So maybe there's somebody here that's in the drift mode. You've just drifted, or maybe you're watching online. I'm gonna put the words up on the screen. I don't want these to just be my words. I want them to be your words too. But if that's you, would you just pray this to the Lord quietly in your mind? I've prayed this many times. Jesus, I confess I've drifted from you. I've tried to run my own life, but today I come back. I lay down my pride, my plans, my sin. I surrender again to your will and your ways. Would you renew me, God? Would you restore me? Fill me with your spirit, for I am yours. Can you stand with me together? And what I want to do is, we're going to do this for a little while. How long are we going to do this for? 6 weeks? 2 months. For 2 months. Michelle just had this on her heart. She said, I think we need to close out with peace. We need to close out with a blessing for our church. And I'll let her explain that more to you, or somebody will explain that more to you in the next week or so. But we want to make this kind of our mantra, our blessing that we're praying over you and over the church. So will you sing this with us?